Hello, everybody. Today, I just wanted to pop on a live quickly to talk about one of my favorite topics that I'm definitely the most passionate about, which is the underrepresented spiritual diversity of witchcraft. Now, the reason that I love talking about this topic so much is because I found that in my own path to magic and my own path as a witch, it was really difficult for me to find my way throughout the years because I kind of had this idea, and I think there is this kind of mainstream idea that there are very particular, specific ways to witch specifically. So, for example, I think that when we think about witches, we think about traditional European witchcraft. I think that we think about Wiccan, the Wiccan path. And I know that for myself personally, I never resonated with any of that. And so it took me, I think, a little bit longer than it needed to find my own way and my own path to doing things my own way. This is actually has been a huge motivator for me in my own work. So I am an author and I've written multiple books, including a few books on witchcraft. So I wrote this book, Witchcraft Therapy, Your Guide to Banishing Bullshit and Invoking Your Inner Power. I wrote Happy Witch Activities, Spells, and Rituals to Calm the Chaos and Find Your Joy. And I very much wrote these are, I've written a few other books as well, but I very much wrote those two specifically to speak to other witches that were like me, that are very much under the psychological model of magic, that very much took more of a secular approach. So I know that when you usually look up things to do with witchcraft, things to do with witching, again, it's very heavily kind of traditionally European, it's very heavily Wiccan. And for myself personally, I always took a way more psychological approach. So I wrote those books to speak to other people that were sort of on a similar vibe or similar path to me. Now, if you're watching this, or if you are watching this on replay, I would love to hear from you in the comments about your own path to magic and your own path to witchcraft, and how the underrepresentative spiritual diversity in witchcraft maybe influenced your practice. So I know for me, things didn't really pop off for me and unlock for me in my own practice and finding my own way until I really recognized that I could give myself permission to practice my own way. Something that I see a lot in different kind of online spaces, witchy groups, things like that, and even in like work that I do with people, is there's a lot of questions, a lot of there can be a lot of fear, there can be a lot of gatekeeping, and a lot of outsourcing your authority, right? So I see a lot of people saying something like, I felt really, say they have a pet pass away. My pet passed away, and I really felt compelled to do this particular ritual with these particular items and honor their life in this way, honor their memory in this way. But like, is that the right thing to do? And then of course, cue like 200 comments from everybody talking about their own subjective life experience. And that's something that I just don't think is really necessary. I think that we are always our own gateway to the divine. And I think that if you listen to your impulses when it comes to magic, if you listen to what you feel intuitively called to do, you're going to connect with your magic on a more deeper level, and therefore be more motivated to do it, be more motivated to practice, and get more from it. So particularly something that was really eye-opening for me and really kind of revolutionized everything for me personally in my own path was, I definitely have that same pipeline that a lot of us have. Like, drop it in the chat if you have this as well, which is the like really kind of strange child to adult witch pipeline, right? I feel like it's so real. There's like the strange little girl to grown up witch pipeline. And often in that journey and in that experience, we can get a lot of like conflicting messages about how we're allowed to express ourselves and express our spirituality. So I know when I was growing up, I always felt very deeply called towards witches. I felt deeply called towards magic, towards shamanism, towards all of these different things. In fact, it influenced me so greatly and so deeply that when I went to school for psychology, I took every elective I could in world religions. I experimented with different churches from like I was early, so early that my neighbor took me because my mom was not religious whatsoever, but I was just so fascinated. It was a Pentecostal church. And I will tell you, like, as some of us know, like those kind of Christian Catholic like that they can get witchy as shit, y'all. And so in my experience, I was always captivated by that. But then when I started kind of dabbling in witchcraft when I was a teenager, it did not resonate with me because I felt like I was just reading books and then doing the things the books said. And I felt like a lot of things I didn't know why I was doing it. There was a lot of ties to like Celtic or European roots. I never felt called to those. That didn't feel like a part of my culture. It didn't feel like a part of my world. And also, I was raised by a parent who was, I don't want to say atheist, but like definitely more science minded. Definitely not into like new age or like that sort of thing. I think very spiritual person, but I wouldn't say definitely anything in this world. So I kind of grew up with these like competing warring selves inside of me. So there was the self I had that felt deeply magical, that felt like I was literally born a witch. And I think that we all to some degree are, whether or not we choose to claim that title. And then this other part of me that was very much like at odds with that, because it was like this immediate gaslighting of myself, right? Of like, well, of course that's not real, or does that even make sense, or like things like that. So it wasn't until I got older and I recognized that science and spirituality, psychology and witchcraft don't actually have to be in opposition to one another, but they can actually be very complementary. And I would say that probably is exactly why I took my, with my psychology degree, why I took the electives and the classes that I did take, is because it was a way for me to start beginning to try and reconcile those aspects, right? Now, my work now, my books, my courses, everything that I do now is really just an extension of that, of trying to reconcile those different things. So I just wanted to pop on here for a little bit to talk about some different types of witches that there are out there, that we are severely underrepresented, to let you know that your path is valid, your practice is valid, all of that sort of thing. Because I feel like we just don't get enough of those kinds of pep talks up in here. So, first of all, I just wanted to say that I ran this like invoking your inner witch workshop a couple years ago, and man, I wish I had it still, but it was so amazing to me when I ran that workshop. The first question I asked everybody was, what does it mean to be a witch? Now, I had a room full of, I think there was like 8 to 10 people there. Each answer was different. So this is something that we can learn from when we're thinking about witchcraft, when we're thinking about spell work, when we're thinking about spirituality, is each answer was so uniquely different. But in general, when I'm talking about being a witch, when I'm talking about witchcraft, I think of it as a mindset and an approach to life. Let me know if that resonates with you guys, but I see it as somebody who is not going to just hand the bag of bullshit, like be handed a bag of bullshit by life and be like, well, I guess I gotta eat it then. Like, no, it's somebody who is in their power and feels that they can be an active agent in their life. In psychology, there's something known as locus of control. So feeling as if you have an internal locus of control. So I am able to control these things. I am able to impact these things, to move these things, to change these things, versus an external locus of control, which is where we get that sensation of like, well, life is happening to me and there's nothing I can do about it. A witch is somebody who is empowered. A witch is somebody who is not just going to take that bag of bullshit, no questions asked, and eat it. They are going to try and direct their own fate, and they're going to try and become an active agent in their own life. Now, for me, being somebody that was raised very much not kind of and this fluffy woo, or like a lot of openness towards that sort of thing, this gels and actually vibes very heavily with psychology. We know that there are certain parts of our brain that are activated in like problem solving. We know that if you use things like ritual, if you actually start setting intentions, if you think positive, all of these things that are seen as very like fluffy and new age or whatever are mostly research backed. And that should really give us all pause. So just starting off with that, I don't know about your definition. If you have a definition, you want to share it with us, I would love to read it. But like, I see it as a mindset and approach to life. It's a way of interacting with the world. It's a way of taking in information and communicating information outward. It's a way of approaching your life and interfacing with the natural world. That is definitely how I see that. Now, in that, you may have heard this phrase that gets thrown out a lot, and it can cause some controversy. Like, some people don't like this, and that's okay, which is that witchcraft is a practice, right? So this is really referring to the fact that it's not necessarily a religion. Like, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to be Wiccan, but there's just this inherent idea that there is a diversity of beliefs within the craft, right? So there might be a spectrum there of diverse and sometimes even contradictory belief systems. This is where we have people who identify as Christian witches. That can be very perplexing, particularly when you think about the long fraught history of those belief systems, right? But there's often like a spectrum of belief systems, right? And so not all witches are Wiccan. That's like a big thing. That's like straight up, like, I think it's even in the very beginning of witchcraft therapy here. Not all witches are Wiccan. Not all witches even identify as pagan. Not all witches actually vibe or believe in the supernatural or, typically spiritual things. So witches can be, and I have some blog posts on my website. You might want to poke around if you have any kind of interest in this topic, or if you're like, oh my God, I feel so represented right now. Witches can be secular. For a long time, I really considered myself a secular witch because I do take more of a psychological paradigm approach. I don't approach my practice as religious, although I will say the word secular kind of implies an absence of spirituality, which I think is a little bit contradictory. But again, those of you that know me know I do not get lost in the sauce when it comes to like semantics, right? I don't like to pick over words. Secular to me, when I say that term, in regards to my practice, is like, I don't work with deities. Typically, I've dabbled a little bit more recently, but I don't typically work with deities. I don't kind of serve anything. I like don't approach things in a highly like religious or like regimented way. There are also atheist witches. There are witches out there that typically just use it as the practice that it is. I do have a blog post on atheist witches as well, that if you are interested, again, and you feel represented, you feel seen, go check that out. I have blog posts on secular witches, atheist witches, and all sorts of other types of modern, say, quote unquote, MISFIT witches there. You can have agnostic witches. So people who maybe don't know exactly what they believe in. Maybe they think there's some higher power. Maybe they just don't know. You can have skeptical witches. You can have Christian witches. Again, there are so many different approaches to magic, and there's so many different ways that you can get here. It's important to be open. Now, one of the problems is because people have very big feelings about spirituality in general. People have really big feelings about I find particularly in spirituality, there can be a lot of gatekeeping and a lot of informational power. Now, informational power is the idea that you need to go through somebody to get some information. Like, I can help you, and if you don't get my help, you're not going to get where you need to go. I can't even. Okay, I'm not even gonna, because I can't. But anyway, that just fucks me off so badly. But so when it comes to you practicing your own intuitive or your own spirituality that you're connecting with on an individual level, to some degree, it's going to be subjective. I don't think that you need to have things be that highly regimented. And I think that in spirituality and witchcraft, there's a lot of people who are drunk on informational power. That might be an unpopular thing to say, but I do see that quite a lot, where people are kind of like, if you're not doing it my way, you're not going to do it right. There can be a lot of, if you're not doing this, you're going to invite this, that, and the other in. And I think a lot of that really depends on your worldview and belief system. So like, I just personally don't engage too much in that, but it's something that happens a lot. And then people start second guessing their own magic and second guessing their own intuition and the things that they feel deeply called to do. And this leads us to outsource our authority, to question our validity in our practice. It's something you see online too. People like make entire content about how like secular witches aren't real witches and things like that. And then you have this kind of like weird witch war energy where people start second guessing themselves. You are given your intuitive channels for a reason. You are given your impulses for a reason. Like all of that is part of this amazing, beautiful ecosystem of guidance that we all have within us. And so when you follow that and when you make space for that, and when you honor that, all that's going to happen is your practice is going to deepen and things are just going to get more magical and better for you. Okay. So witches are not a one size fits all thing. So if you're watching this and you feel like a bit of a misfit, you feel maybe you're a secular witch, an intuitive witch, an eclectic witch, whatever, and you're feeling this like some type of way, I want you to understand that there's no one size fits all approach to witchcraft. Your practice is valid and your intuition is valid. Your channels are valid. Your impulses are valid. Fucking full stop, period. Okay, that's that. Witches also cannot be easily defined or pigeonholed. When people are like, you don't look like a witch, or you don't do this, or you do that. It's not just an aesthetic. So there is fucking that, right? Do you get results or do you not? That is like really the only, thing that you need to focus on, right? We're also not governed by any one belief system or framework of rules. If you want to see this in action, go to any witchcraft group and watch people talk about the rule of three and then get into like masses of like 300 thread count fucking threads of fighting with each other about whether or not the rule of three exists. My viewpoint is that so much of your magic is going to be reliant on your intention, your worldview, and belief system, which means if you believe that what you do is going to cause some sort of ripple effect, examine that belief and honor that belief and take precautions or frameworks or whatever to try and mitigate those factors. I think a lot of people would never use the term witch or even know anything about it that are unconsciously or subconsciously manifesting all the time, good things, bad things, not even knowing it, right? So I just don't think that it's the sort of thing that other people get to tell you what is or is not true for you. Oh, bitches, I'm on a roll right now. Okay, so now another thing that witches are not is concerned with whether or not other people think their magic or their craft is valid. Does my magic work less because somebody comes and they points their finger and they say that doesn't work? Baby, no, absolutely fucking not, right? The thing about magic is it doesn't matter if other people believe in it. One of my favorite memes is that one where it's like, you're not a witch, you're mentally ill with candles. First of all, I'm both. But second of all, other people believing or not believing in your magic or thinking it will or will not work, that's not how it works. That's like going up to someone and being like, you're not happy. Like someone who's happy, you're not happy. It doesn't make them less happy because you came in and put your fucking 2 cents into the mix. That is not how it works. If your craft is a good form of self-care for you, is it a good form of magic for you? If it's helping you move the needle in your own life, then it's working, period. If you're seeing results from it, if it is helping you shift your circumstances, shift your fate, shift the things that you're wanting to shift, if it's helping you open up to spirit, if it's helping you channel your creativity, if it's helping you find peace in whatever the fuck it is we're living in right now, then it is working. And no amount of people that are going to belittle, shame, whatever, gatekeep is going to make any of that any less true. And that is just the way things are. Sorry, I got to plug in my computer here. So there is that. So I kind of just wanted to come here and say that it's really interesting for me because I run groups for people who are identify as spiritual. Sometimes they don't identify as witches. Sometimes they do. And I really try and speak to everybody because to me, I feel like all reality is to some degree subjective, right? So it's like everything that we're interpreting about the world is coming through our lens of subjective awareness, through filtering through our mindset, our worldview, our belief system, like what feels true for us. Very much all of this is constructed through our experiences, through the special type of person we are, through our spirit, like all of these different things. Then everything we communicate outward goes through the same fucking treatment, right? So it goes through the same filters. It goes through the same, like, all your baggage. It goes through all your beliefs, all your like upper limit, like all the things that you believe to be true. It goes through that as it exits. So sometimes the message or the communication you can have is not going to be crystal clear, objective from the outside. It's wholly subjective, right? So a good example of this, which is like my favorite example to use, so those of you that are in my world will probably know this one, is like, there's the correspondences for, say, lavender, but like, say you grew up and your mom used to just beat your ass with a lavender switch or something demented like that. It's such a dumb example. That's why I love it so much. You're not going to have calming, loving associations with that, right? It's going to be a little bit different for you. So in that sense, it's always important to recognize your inner authority. It's really important to recognize that your impulses and the way that you feel called to do things, perhaps that's your direct channel to the divine. Perhaps that spirit absolutely moving through you, and this tendency to try and like get validated by other people, or see if other people actually like would say that that's a valid way to practice, or the right, quote unquote, right or wrong way to practice. That's really just diluting something that you are getting dropped into you from the divine. That's it. That's all. So, if you are a secular witch, if you're a misfit witch, if you're eclectic witch, if you're intuitive witch, any of those things, I want to tell you your practice is valid, and please do not outsource your authority. Also, just so you guys know, I have my intuitive spellcrafting course on mega sale right now. It's like $14, which is wild, but I was going to retire it. And then I was like, oh my God, it's so good though. I just want people to have it, and I want it to be a no-brainer. So you can get the link to that below. All it is telling you is different ways to craft your own rituals and your own spells, self-directed, fully self-directed. So looking here in the comments, if you have any comments, if you have any thoughts about this, feel free to drop them below. Even if you're watching this on replay, guys, I feel very passionate about this subject, so I would love to hear from you. Again, if you want more resources, I actually had a whole other website before called The Secular Witch. I just could not, it's a lot of work and money and everything to do two things. And so I ended up having to let that one go. But I did transfer over a lot of my blog posts from The Secular Witch onto my current website so that you guys could read it. If you're like, I think I might be an atheist witch, I think I might be a secular witch, I think I might be, go and check that out. Looking at the comments here, again, drop me any comments if you have some. I'm just reading this on live right now. Definitely a product of the weird kid to witch pipeline. I feel like everybody in my world is. I love that. It's so real. I always felt really drawn to witchcraft. Same here. Guys, I want to tell you something embarrassing. When I was like 7, was I 7? I think I was 7. When I was like 7 years old, I had a band with my friend, and we called it witch dance, and it was literally just us sit like singing in the backseat of like the car, and all our songs were about like black cats or the moon. We'd be like, oh yeah, witch dance, oh yeah, witch dance in the moonlight with the black cat. It was horrendously embarrassing, but I kind of love it. In hindsight, I wish that we had been able to cut a record, because I'd listen to the shit out of that right now. So yeah, this, like, I feel like some of us are just born, we just be born knowing, and we are just like literally on that path. And it feels like all these things that muddy, cloudy up the water can really kick us off the trajectory that we're meant to be on, until we actually learn, like, no, I get to do it my way. Full stop, period. Sarah also says, I love your blend of the psychological and magic. Yes. And it's funny because there's always going to be that tension for me, but I believe that tension is a creative force. I think tension between anything is always a creative force. It's sort of like, imagine the vision is magnets with like different polarities, and the space that is created between them. And that space is a space of creation. I hope that makes sense. Heather is saying yes to that point. Good. I just wrote in bold letters, recognize your inner authority. Love that. Yes, that is absolutely, I think that is what we should always be listening to. So every time we do kind of like inner work or we try and work with our subconscious, we do healing work. As you guys know, like my practice is very solely on psychological magic, using it as a form of self-healing, chaos magic, that sort of thing. Again, if you want to get like more information about that, feel free to check out my intuitive spellcrafting course below, which is like, seriously, it's like only $14, which is amazing. But with that, it's like really trying to look at what is going to move the needle for me. And if you feel called to do something, typically that's going to move the needle more than just like, I'm using my book as an example, but I would say like definitely check out my book. But if you're just like looking at a book and you're like, it says I have to do it this way or this will happen, so I'm going to do it. And then you're like, I guess I'm doing the thing. You don't have to do that. You guys, I don't even celebrate the traditional wheel of the year, which is so funny. I don't consider myself a witchcraft expert because I don't think that's even possible. It's crazy to me to see the witch police out here and like the witchcraft expert. Like you can be an expert on traditional witchcraft or the expression of witches or like a scholar or like an occultist, whatever, but you can't ever be an expert on somebody else's magic. You know what I mean? Because it's always going to be unique and individual to them. Your intuitive style is going to be different than my intuitive style. Your open channels are going to be different than my open channels. So in that sense, I just want everybody, if you're listening to me ramble for this fucking long, if you take anything from this, it's this. Your path is valid. Your magic is valid. Give it the space to be expressed, to be respected, and to become like a co-creative force in your life. Right? It doesn't matter if other people say you're invalid. It doesn't matter if there's 15 blog posts and videos and whatever telling you that you're, you're not real, you're not, your practice isn't valid, you're just stupid, you're cosplay, you're this and that. It doesn't fucking matter. None of that fucking matters. Just because someone says something about you or about the things you do or about your practice doesn't automatically make it true. Now, you being the subjective observer and creator of your own life, the person that's actually participating and shaping it, that does matter. It matters a fuck of a lot, actually. Like it matters a lot. So listen to that. Listen to that. No more gaslighting yourself. No more minimizing yourself. Just allow yourself to be free, even if you're a misfit witch. Okay, so if nobody has any questions or comments or thoughts or anything like that, I am going to cut this off. This is a bit longer than I expected, but whew, I get sweaty and I get to ranting. So thank you so much for being here. Oh yes, thank you, Heather. Thank you so much for being here. If you are new here, feel free to like this video. Everybody who's here, please like this video, guys. YouTube is such a beast. YouTube is, oh man, it is so hard to get anything seen on YouTube. But feel free to like this video, to subscribe, please share it. And thank you again for being here. I've got lots of links below if you want to check out my blog post that I've told you about, my intuitive spellcrafting course, or any of my free resources on my website. Get links to my books. And if you're a secular witch and you are looking for a book about a more secular approach to the craft, it doesn't talk about deities. It doesn't talk about that. It's very focused on mental health magic. Check out Witchcraft Therapy. Or you could even check out Happy Witch. This one's very much more energetic, I would say, and playful, whereas this one is very much like a primer or like beginning guide for if you want to start your own psycho-spiritual practice that is going to help you heal. It's got stuff in here about body image, confidence. It's got stuff in here about setting boundaries. It's got stuff in here about dealing with seasonal depression. Like there is so much in it. But don't read it if you're a precious, whiny little baby, because I swear a lot in it and a lot of reviews, people didn't like that. But I will tell you that like literally 99.9% of other books in this niche are written in a very flowery, poetic, beautiful way. This one is supposed to be written like your not safe for work bestie that you would never, ever dare to have on speakerphone in front of your children. Thank you so much for being here, and I love you, and bye.